Hello, and welcome to another episode of Level Dive Flux. My name is Nick, and this week I am going to be talking about one of the greatest action movies ever made that you probably haven't heard of. The 1992 action masterclass Hong Kong action thriller film written by Barry Wong and directed by the legendary John Woo. Hard Boiled, starring Chow Yun-fat as Inspector Tequila Yuen, Tony Leung Chu Wow as Alan, an undercover cop, and Anthony Wong as Johnny Wong, a leader of the criminal triads. This is a movie that it's very possible that you haven't heard of it, but you've seen the influence that it's had on action movies since its conception. And I guarantee that you've seen this movie around. I mean, its influences. It would be hard to... Okay, easy one. If you've seen... Oh, my God. I mean, I'm recording on a cabinet, basically. So I'm going to be bumping into this shit. Sorry about that. If you have seen The Matrix, which I think just about everyone has, the Wachowskis were heavily influenced by John Woo and his style of action and sort of the things that go on in his movies. So, I am drinking today in celebration of doing this episode. This movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. I remember the day that I was first shown this movie. Oh, fuck. Excuse me. That was fucking loud. So I'm drinking Tequila Slammers in celebration of this movie because the lead character, Inspector Tequila Yuen, played by Chow Yun-fat, drinks Tequila Slammers as his drink in the movie. Now, a tequila slammer is basically just a vodka soda. Oh, fuck, that's good. About half and half tequila and soda. Then you slam it or shake it to get the tequila and the soda mixed. Now, it took me like 15 years to figure out what drink this was. So I'm trying to give you this information up front so that when you watch this movie, you can also partake in the incredible beverage that he drinks throughout the movie. So half tequila, half soda, slam it or shake it with like a coaster over the top. I mean, it's just so stylish. He does it like with, I think it's like in the first minute of the movie, he is drinking a tequila slammer. And, you know, back when I saw this, it was like the early days of YouTube. And I didn't know what the fuck he was drinking. Like Google was all weird and shit. You know, like nobody was looking up this movie. And it took me a long time to figure it out. So now you know one of my favorite drinks as well. I love tequila slammers. I think they're fucking great. They get you fucked up. I mean, I've had 3 in the span of setting up this podcast. So I had one right before I started, and I had one just now, and I had one a little earlier. So let's get into Hard Boiled, directed by John Woo. Now, John Woo is an incredible director. He is a man that essentially changed the Hong Kong action climate with the movies that he created. One of his biggest movies ever, A Better Tomorrow, was so good. So what he makes is heroic bloodshed movies. And this was a big, big thing in China during like the mid-'80s to the early '90s. There are movies about cops dying and sacrificing themselves and being heroes. And it was a big, big genre. And the genre started dying out near the end of like the middle of the 90s, or near the end of the 90s, I would say, like the middle of the 90s. And John Woo moved to America, and he made a few action movies here. but he will always be known for the movies that he made in Hong Kong. Or at least his Hong Kong action movies. I don't know if they were made in Hong Kong, but they're called Hong Kong action. So, like Better Tomorrow, Hard Boiled, The Killer. The Killer is very big. There's actually even a reference of it in the Quentin Tarantino film Jackie Brown, where Samuel L. Jackson is communicating. I don't remember who he's talking with, but he's talking about the Beretta 9mm handgun. And he's like, once the movie The Killer came out, every single person in the world wanted a Beretta 9mm. And I totally get that, because The Killer, also played by Chow Yun-fat, directed by John Woo. I don't know if it was written by him. He used like dual-wield Beretta 9mm throughout the entire fucking movie. And he like made the gun famous. So very cool. John Woo is a low-key, very well-known director, and his influences carry through. They're going to be timeless, the things that he's done. So let's get into, I would say, subjectively, his best movie. This is my favorite John Woo film. There's even a video game sequel called Stranglehold, also directed by John Woo, and also starring Chow Yun-fat. It was for the Xbox 360. It was made on the Unreal 3 engine. It was fucking awesome. It was one of the first 2 games I ever bought for my Xbox 360, the other one being Assassin's Creed 1. And it was fucking rad, and I didn't even know about Hard Boiled when I bought this game. So very interesting how things work out. Now, I was telling a little anecdote. I said we'd get started, but I want to continue my anecdote. I was talking about the first time that I watched this movie. We were at a friend's house. Me, Quentin, who you've met through all of the Fable podcasts, Fable 2 and quote, my Fable 4, he showed me. We were hanging out at the other Nick's house, who was in the Defining Games episode. We were at his house, and he goes, hey, man, you got to watch this movie. And I was like, okay, what movie is it? He's like, it's called Hard Boiled. It's on YouTube. It's in 7 parts. You just sit and watch this shit. And I was like, all right. And so I watched this movie while they like played video games or whatever. I don't know. It was back in middle school. It was just like prime hanging out days when you could just do anything with your boys. And it was just, take me back. Oh, beautiful times. And I watched this movie and I remember just being fucking amazed. And the amazement carries through. I mean, I would say 15 years older than when I first saw that. 15 years? No, more like 9 years. 9 years. Let's say 8 or 9 years. Jesus, I'm not 30 years old. For fuck's sake. Whatever. And when I get really interested in something, I take it to an extreme. So I watched this movie. I learned all about John Woo. I watched a fuck ton of John Woo movies. I watched The Killer. I watched Face Off. I watched, those 2 movies. Red Cliff. But I became very interested. I mean, this was when I was younger, I wanted to be a movie director. I wanted to direct movies. And this movie is one of like maybe 2 or 3 movies that made me want to be that. The action in this movie, it's unparalleled even today. And it just shows you that this is a testament to how good action movies can be. It's incredible. It is story heavy. It's action heavy. It has, now this is a little bit of a spoiler. I'm going to get into it more in depth in like an hour because I'm going to break down every fucking bit of this movie, dude. I took extensive notes and we're going to get into it. This movie is a masterpiece of action. I don't think it's been topped today. And it's very interesting to watch this movie, 20 years later, and see that it still stands up and is still one of the best ever. Now let's get into it. The movie opens with Chow Yun-fat's character, Inspector Tequila, playing clarinet at a jazz bar. You know, it shows him pour the tequila slammer. It's got this smooth jazz soundtrack going. He's playing clarinet. He's sweating. It's showing like the title sequences and stuff. And you're just in. Immediately, you're in. You're like, okay, this is the coolest guy I've ever met. You don't even know his name's Tequila at this point. He's just a jazz playing, tequila drinking man in the opening. And then, that's our first introduction to tequila. And then we get the first action scene, one that is literally known throughout action movie lore, basically, as one of the best shootouts that has ever been put to film. We get the tea house scene. Now, the tea house scene is very cool. We are introduced to quite a few characters that we're introduced to further tequila. We're introduced to a few of the cops, and we're introduced to Tequila's partner. Now, what's going on is there is going to be an arms deal at the tea house, and as police officers, they are going to try and stop it. But Inspector Tequila is a hard-boiled cop. They say that line a little bit later in the movie. Let me pour myself another beverage. Quite a good build-up. It's at this bird-filled tea house. So, like, one of the cool things that you can do, I've actually seen this multiple times. There are certain tea houses in China where you can, like, bring the birds that you own, like canaries, and you can hang them up, and they'll, like, chirp, and you can get good food, and you can drink tea, and you can hang out. So all the cops are basically undercover right now at the tea house. That's a big one. Oof. All right. Let's get this shit. I got to shake it up a little bit better than that. Come on. There we go. It has to spill. Now, one of the things about tequila slammers, excuse me, you have to drink the whole thing in one go. That's the point. So it's quite a bit of alcohol, quite a bit of soda. You drink the whole thing all at once. But I'm telling you, it's the way to do it. There's a lot of mic sounds right now. My arms are on the cabinet. So the cops are undercover, basically doing a sting, and they're investigating this. There's like a certain table. Like, they obviously know something is going on. They've got a few dudes serving tea. They've got a few dudes sitting around the tea house. And then they get the transfer of money. Bam! The money transfers hands. And they go, all right. Tequila gives the signal, and I believe the signal is him throwing his cigarette into, and you can smoke, by the way. Tequila smokes a lot in this movie. He fucking chain smokes. And I think it's because I would say, I don't know about Chinese culture, but in Japanese culture, and I'm not saying they're the same, but in Japanese culture, it's seen as like sort of like a bad guy, like cool guy thing to do to smoke cigarettes. Because it's like illegal to smoke cigarettes in public other than designated areas. So I'm curious to see if it's sort of similar in China, because Chow Yun-fat, from the two movies, I actually just watched like half of A Better Tomorrow like yesterday or 2 days ago, because I was very interested in knowing and learning about it, because I don't know, I didn't even know it existed. But I hear it's one of his best. So he smokes in that movie too. And I'm thinking that smoking is sort of seen in Chinese culture like from a hero character as like a cool thing to do, at least in like the 90s and 80s and stuff. So he's a fucking chain smoker in this movie. Anyway, he gives the signal, and then a cop comes up, and he, with like disguised as like a waiter, and he knocks over the bird. So the guns that they're selling are concealed in the bird cages, right? So perfect way to do a weapons deal in public. I mean, just incredible. Like, I mean, you would never check a bird cage. It's everyone has bird cages. Everyone's doing their own thing. And then the money transfers hands. We see it. He gives the signal. A cop walks over with a teapot, knocks over the canary bird cage. The guns pop out. Fucking Tequila pulls out the guns from that have fell on the ground. All hell breaks loose. I'm telling you, it is insane from second one. So everyone starts shooting. There is shooting everywhere. Civilians are running away. Henchmen, villains are shooting all over the place. Tequila's got fucking 2 guns. He's shooting people. He's dodge rolling. He's diving backwards. He's shooting people all over the place. One of the things that immediately affected me watching, this is, I would say this is 5 minutes in to the movie. This is very early. So you will know if you're going to like this movie right away. One of the things that really got me is how much the environment, the set, explodes as the guns fire. So, and if you've seen The Matrix, I will explain a correlation between this. In the tea house, people are running around shooting at each other. Everyone's getting gunned down. The squibs, if you know what a squib is, it's sort of like that blood splatter that comes off of a human body. They're very good in this movie. They're not. There's like a lot of them, but they're not RoboCop extreme. They're just very good. But as people are shooting, squibs are blowing up. The tables are exploding. Walls are exploding. There's like paper everywhere. There's wood shattering. I mean, it's fucking crazy. There's so much going on. Tequila is running around, stepping over booths, dual wielding, shooting people all over the place. There's like a small scene where there's like a bad dude running through a crowd, shooting a bunch of civilians. I mean, it is insane. It is 100% full tilt boogie craziness. But something that'll affect people who can't suspend disbelief, who can't go into the movie completely, and that coupled with knowing how guns actually operate. So guns have magazine sizes. Certain guns have certain bullet counts that they can hold. You know, I think like this is just, you know, don't at me. But this is, like, I think a Beretta has like a 12 bullet magazine. I think. Well, 12 plus 1 if there's one in the chamber. But in John Woo movies, and this movie in particular, people fire like 20 shots, 22 shots out of like a normal pistol before they have to reload, if they even reload at all. And if you're someone who, because I don't give a fuck about that. I am so into like the action that's happening, but I've thought about it where there are some people who they're gun nuts, and that's okay. Be a gun nut. But if you can't suspend your disbelief for the action, like what's important is this sort of hyper-realized world that John Woo has created, not the realism of our world. It's the heightened realism, the heightened reality of John Woo's world. I mean, Chow Yun-Fat fires his dual pistols like 35 fucking times. I mean, he is just shooting all over the fucking place. Just everybody's fucking getting bullets. And I don't even know if he fucking reloads. I don't remember, but you get lost in the action. But if you're someone who can't get lost in the action and you are about realism in your action movies, you're going to have a hard time watching this movie. I mean, it's not perfect in that way. I mean, if that's your problem. It's not my problem. That's your problem. I think it's fucking great because I don't fucking know how many bullets is in a Beretta, and it doesn't matter because there's so much going on. Papers shooting off walls. People just fucking getting shot 15 times. I mean, it's incredible. But I will say, if you do have an issue with bullet counts and you can't suspend your disbelief, you're going to have a hard time. Let's continue. So, in every action scene in this movie, there is a clear enemy. A total clear enemy. And we know because they show him, they give him like screen time. They give him like a close-up. They give him FaceTime. And it revolves around the action sequences. Despite how hectic they are, they're very easy to follow. His direction of action is god tier. In modern day movies, they use quick cuts and fast direction to sort of hide the action. And in those, like I would say Bourne 3, the Bourne trilogy, number 3, I think that's Ultimatum, I think. It's sort of hard to follow the martial arts. It's sort of hard to follow the gun action. And that's because the actors aren't good at the martial arts, and the director is probably nervous about the gun action. And sometimes it's sort of like just enemies sort of just like appear out of somewhere, and then like it shows them shoot them. It shows the character shoot, and then that character dies. But like the angles are kind of wrong. In John Woo movies, and in this movie especially, it is very easy to follow. High tension, high excitement action. You will have absolutely no issue following the action in this movie. The way that he intended is the way that you're on the rails, man. The movie's going off the rails, and you're going off the rails with it. All right? Incredible. So, they fight through. They're shooting. Everyone is just, there's just so, like, cops shooting villains. Like, 5 different cops shooting bad guys. Chow Yun Fat, Inspector Tequila, running around with 2 guns, shooting a bunch of fucking people. And then it ends with, there's a scene, a big scene. There's the death of his partner. And they use slow motion to sort of emphasize it. So he gets shot. He gets shot like fucking 15 times. I think the bad dude has like a fucking Uzi, right? And he gets shot like, and he's just like, his body's just fucking shaking, and then he falls, and it's like slow. It's like, and then he falls, right? And it's all slow, and we like really experience the moment, because John Woo uses slow motion as a way to heighten the things that we see. There are certain moments that John Woo uses slow motion to sort of highlight a moment in the movie. There's a part in the very last action sequence where Inspector Tequila shoots someone through a door, and then the dude shows up behind the door, and we're in the perspective of Tequila behind his shoulder. He fires, And then we see the dude's face, and then it cuts to his body and the door in slow motion. The bullet shoots through the door, shoots through the guy, blood splurts out the back, his fucking body shakes, and it's all in slow-mo. It's like 5 seconds long. It's like super slow. And then like the dude falls, and it moves to another cut, and then it cuts. And this is like during like a huge moment in the movie where it's very important that we're following and seeing what's happening, and the use of slow motion that John Woo does is to highlight moments in the movie. I mean, honestly, I think fucking John Woo created bullet time. Max Payne, The Matrix, any fucking game that uses bullet time, it kind of comes from John Woo, dude. I mean, I would say it kind of comes like, so here's the weird thing, right? Anecdote. Hashtag anecdote. The Wachowskis were making The Matrix 1 as, Quantum? That's not Quantum. It's fucking something. The dudes behind Max Payne 1 were also doing a thing with quote-unquote bullet time, which is a slow motion way to see like bullets flying and like the character going quickly but like in slow motion and this really cool thing. And actually Max Payne was also very inspired by John Woo movies as well. So John Woo inspired The Matrix and Max Payne, 2 movies that use bullet time, which I think, bullet time, like in quotes, like that's like a thing now. I mean, you've seen it in many, many games. Technically, Deadeye in Red Dead Redemption is bullet time, which is something that comes from John Woo. So the funny thing about The Matrix and Max Payne, though, is The Matrix, the Wachowskis thought that they created bullet time. They were the first ones to do it, right? Where, like, you see the bullets, like on slow motion, you see them. Well, Max Payne came out, like, a year or just a few months before The Matrix, and they had bullet time in it, too. And it's very interesting, that sort of groupthink that humans get, where we have an idea, but somebody else has probably had the idea too. So, hey, if you're making a game or if you're making a movie or if you got a script in your mind, fucking get that shit down. Write it down and show it off so that you can be the first one to do it. Okay, don't waste any time. Groupthink among human beings exists. Okay, we're all inspired by similar things. We all have similar, not all of us, but certain people around have ideas that you might have inside you as well. So as motivation, get that shit you got working on down and out so that you're the first one to do it. Anyway, back to Hard Boiled. Should I make another slammer? I'm going to make another slammer. Let's see how fucking wasted I get during the making of this fucking podcast. So, we get the slow motion death of Tequila's partner. Every bullet, every squib, we see it in slow motion. Tequila dives into the room, shooting at the main bad guy. The main bad guy kills his partner. He dives into the room. He's fucking dodging over tables. Shit's exploding. He rolls over a table. An explosion. He gets covered in flour, which is like it was such an interesting thing to me. I thought it was so odd, like covering your main character in flour. I just felt like it was a weird thing. But I think it's like really cool, like, because it feels natural. Like that's just like what happened, you know? They didn't keep the beauty of the character. They went for sort of like a realism thing where he rolled over some flour and he got covered head to fucking toe in flour. Oh yeah. Woo! All right. He rolls over the table. He puts his fucking gun in the bad dude's head. The bad dude looks at him. Tequila's got a toothpick in his mouth. He flicks it. He flicks it in like in between his tongue and his teeth. He pulls the trigger. Blah! Blood splatters on his face. The tea house scene is over. The investigation starts. Cops start showing. Oh, fuck! Excuse me. Hold on. I forgot an incredible moment that happens during, I would say, the middle of the tea house scene. Two dudes are running down these stairs. They're killing civilians. They shoot a few cops. They're running down. Tequila is chasing them. And then he slides on the banister. He fucking shoots him. Just shooting. I mean, it's Tequila sliding down the stair banister, shooting at the dudes. It shows the dude's perspective. It shows them being shot. The squibs. They're falling down. They die. He gets to the end of the stairs, just firing like a fucking animal. They're dead. Cops show up, things are getting hectic. He goes back upstairs, and then the scene I just described happens. The main bad guy is dead. He leaves the room. His partner is dead. The lead of the department shows up, and he gives Tequila a speech. And I will always remember this speech. And it might not be completely accurate. The thing is the English dub. So I've seen this movie two ways: English sub and English dub. I own a version, an HD remake version of. I think I just said virgin. Excuse me. I own an HD remake version of this movie that is in English, but like the quality's way up. But like the first time I ever watched it was grainy as shit and on YouTube, and it was in Cantonese with subtitles. So honestly, that's the way I prefer to watch it, is Cantonese with subtitles. But the lead inspector, the captain of the department, walks in. He looks at Tequila's partner, and he goes, "You know what? You're basically an asshole. Like, you got a bunch of people killed doing this." And he gives him this quote: "Give a guy a gun, and he's Superman. Give him two, and he's God." And that line has always stuck with me. It's just really cool. I mean, it's just such like a cool thing to write. I mean, it's true, right? Like, it's sort of like an action movie trope. Give a guy a gun, and anyone in an action movie is a fucking hero. Give him two, and he's fucking unstoppable. And I just really loved that moment, and I loved that line is in the movie. And then we move forward to sort of, there are a few very heavy story sections. And I think that's okay. I think it's like perfect, right? So we get super high action, and then we get it broken up by story moments that are slower, that introduce and flesh out characters. I think the pacing of this movie is very good, but I think that some people are going to have a problem with the pacing, as sometimes it can feel kind of slow because your heart sorts to get ticking with the way that the action is, that maybe you don't want to wait through the story moments. And I can understand that, because sometimes I feel the same way, where it's like, fuck, I don't want to know about this new character that we're introducing, Alan, who is played by Tony Leung Chi Hwa. I probably fucking butchered that, and I apologize. But we're introduced to the new undercover cop character, who we don't learn is undercover until 20 minutes after his introduction. This movie is a little over 2 hours long. I think it's 2.5 hours long. It's pretty long. For an action movie, that's pretty long. The first time we see him, he's driving around in his car, and we are listening to this like high amp jazz soundtrack, and this soundtrack carries throughout the whole movie. There's this one really, I would call it the theme of Hard Boiled, where it's like this like mysterious synth melody that gets played like during scenes of like tension and near the end of action scenes, but like every part where emotion is happening and characters are developing and characters are being introduced, we get this very, very good jazz soundtrack. And I'm a big fan of jazz. I think this movie affected me a lot. I watched it during my formative years, and I think low-key this movie affected me a lot as a person because I fucking love jazz. I love John Woo's style. Oh, God, I fucking love this shit. I mean, it's just so good. So we get introduced to Alan, is what I'm going to be calling him for the rest of this podcast. And the first thing he does is he goes into a library. He's walking around. He's looking for a book. He pulls a book out. I think it's Shakespeare's Poems Part 2. It's like, I know it's like a 3-part thing of like all of Shakespeare's poems. And he sits down across from someone at a table in this library. And immediately the person is nervous. He's like, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. And so Alan starts scrolling through the book. He's talking to the guy. And he goes, you know, you betrayed the family. What's going on? You know, and the dude's like, fuck, man, I'm sorry. And then he gets to a certain part in the book. And then the camera flashes downward at the book. And it's just this cut out book. And there's a fucking silenced pistol in it. Fucking Alan pulls it out, puts it to the dude's head, pulls the trigger. The dude fucking blood spray. Dude drops. Alan picks up the book, puts it back, walks away. Tequila shows up. Tequila shows up. They do an investigation of the library. He's walking through the library, and it's like flashing between Alan and Tequila, sort of like their process through the library. And Tequila's like just scrolling through books, scrolling through aisles of the library, and he finds a book that's sort of sticking out. He's like, huh. He grabs it. There's blood on it. He opens it. There's a fucking gun. There's a gun. And he goes, all right. And then the scene sort of just like skips, right? And it goes to sort of like the office that Tequila works at. Like he works at a police station. He's a cop. So there's a lot of there's a few, I'm not going to say a lot. There's a few scenes sort of in the police station. And it's got that sort of typical loose cannon cop versus his sergeant type thing. And I really like that because it works really well in this movie. And I just like those 80s cop movies, like Lethal Weapon, Die Hard. I'm into all those movies. And this movie does that same sort of thing where a loose cannon cop is sort of taking the law into his own hands and doing things he's not supposed to. And he's like arguing with his boss, and it causes tension for the movie where the boss is just like, you better fucking stop doing this shit. And he's like, fuck you, dog. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, dude. There's people dying. And I'm going to fucking solve this case. You know? And I really like that. There's also this little subplot that I think is really cute in the police offices of Tequila and this girl that he was dating, and maybe they broke up, but he's like not doing good enough for her, and there's like it's like a small romantic subplot that they sort of like make jokes at through the movie. Like they sort of Tequila makes jokes at her throughout the movie. Like there's a scene much later in the final action scene of the movie where there is a room full of babies. Now this seems odd, right? A room full of babies. But he's like walking around and he goes, "You don't want this many babies, do you?" And she goes, "Sure, why not?" And it's just funny because he is basically homeless. There's the first scene we see Tequila in the police office. He's looking for a home. He's looking for an apartment. He's like, "Fuck, I can't afford any of this shit." And someone is like, "Dude, just go down to the YMCA, shower. You can rent a room for like a long time." And it's just funny. And she's getting roses from like a random person. And these roses always come with like a song attached. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Yeah. Boom. So that comes into this movie. So each card is has a song on it that's attached to the roses. The roses come in. There's a card. There's a song on the card. And we learn about this because the girl that Tequila is interested in and has history with is reading these letters. And she calls Tequila and she's like, "Hey, what's this song?" And he goes, "Do, re, mi, fa, 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 so, la, ti, do." And she goes, "Oh." And then they figure it out. And it turns out that is a code from an undercover agent in the triad sending a message to a girl, like to a police officer, that they decode and they learn about sort of how the investigation is going. And I think it's a very cool way. It's like a cool way to like hide your messages, And at this point, I think that we can assume that, actually at this point, this moment in the movie, we don't know that Alan is the undercover agent, but Alan is the undercover cop. And that creates a lot of tension in the movie. So we get a character development plot after the tea house of Alan meeting up with his boss, Hoy, Uncle Hoy, and we learn about sort of their relationship. We learn about like how everyone in the people he's working with love him. He's like a great guy. And we move on to finding out about this dude named Johnny Wong. Now, Johnny Wong is a gun runner, and his competition is who Alan, the undercover police officer, is currently in line with. Now, Johnny Wong is trying to recruit Alan and say, "Look, I like your style." That line comes up. "I like your style. I want you to be in my gang." And we get a sort of like this is the main introduction to what the plot is going to be. It's a triangle, okay? Here is the triangle. Johnny Wong is a bad guy. Alan is an undercover cop investigating and trying to take down Johnny Wong. We have Tequila, who is also trying to take down Johnny Wong, but does not know Alan is an undercover police officer. So in Tequila's eyes, Alan is just another gangster. Alan is the only one who knows what every other card at the table is. Johnny's got some cards. Tequila's got some cards. Tequila is focused on Johnny and Alan. But Alan knows that Tequila is a cop. And Alan is a cop too. And he doesn't want to kill anyone. Firstly, no cop wants to kill anybody, but Alan is in a very difficult situation where he is working undercover in a very heavy triad gang. And sometimes that means you're going to have to kill people. And one of the things that makes Alan's character very interesting is every time, and this comes up a little bit later, and I would say I'm going to quote it as the yacht fight scene. Alan creates a paper crane for every person he's had to kill in his undercover work. So, and he also remarks that he hates making paper cranes. And it's sort of a way to show that Alan is haunted by the things he's had to do as an undercover officer. And he talks about it a little bit later in the movie where he says, you know, when I joined the police force, there was like only one thing that I could do, and it was do undercover work. And he didn't really want to do. He wanted to be a cop. He wanted to be a boy in blue, just like Tequila was able to be. And Alan is very haunted by the fact that he's had to kill people. He's had to do horrible things to keep up his cover, to get further in the organization. And I think it's a very cool character trait that the writer Barry Wong puts into this movie as a way of showing that Alan does have issues with what he does. He's not heartless. He's not numb to it, even. He's affected by everything he has to do in his undercover work. And I think it's very, very good characterization. So after we learn about the main plot with Johnny Wong, Uncle Hoy, and Alan, and that's sort of Alan's plot, but that moves into the, quote, gun running plot, which is what the cops, Tequila and Alan, are both trying to stop, is the gun running in Hong Kong. So after this moment, like this meeting of Johnny Wong and Mad Dog, or as I might call him, so he's got two names. I called him Scarface for quite a while, but his actual name in the movie is Mad Dog. So I might call him both of those, depending on if I remember or not. But we get a scene in a bar of sort of Johnny Wong learning about Alan and Alan learning about Johnny Wong. And in the background is Mad Dog Scarface sort of looking upon them, learning about him in his own way. And Mad Dog Scarface becomes the number one, I would say, okay, the overall plot, the number one bad guy is Johnny Wong. But the person, the dude we shoot out with the most is Mad Dog Scarface. So, after that scene, they exit the bar, and Johnny Wong sees a bunch of newspaper clippings attached to his car of like, you murdered this guy, there's murders in Hong Kong, bloodshed, gun running, all this shit. I'm sorry, but it's all in Cantonese, so I don't know what it's exactly saying, but I'm assuming it's that. So his henchmen start ripping it off the car, and Tequila shows up. He's right there, right? And he goes, you son of a bitch. And he puts a fucking gun. He puts a fucking gun to Johnny Wong's face. And he says, all right. He's like, I know what you're doing, and I'm going to fucking catch you, right? And that's a hard-boiled cop thing to do. You're not supposed to do that, right? He just assaulted a civilian in the street and put a gun to his face. Alan fucking pistol whips the dude. So this is one of the first sort of confusions that happen with Tequila and Alan the undercover cop, where Alan pistol whips fucking Tequila, and then Tequila hits the ground. Johnny takes the gun from Alan's hand and points it at fucking Tequila's head and says, I'm going to fucking kill you, cop. And Alan goes, no, hold on. Shh. Calm down. Now is not the right time. Don't do it. Don't kill this cop. And they go, all right, okay, fine. And then we move on. Tequila's alive. Alan is very worried about this loose cannon cop that is impeding his investigation of the gun running. So, coworker, female, love interest gets another set of roses. A message gets decoded. The code says, don't ever bite yourself in the tail again. Now, I think that's pretty close, but I've had quite a few tequila slammers. It's pretty close. Holy shit. I think this podcast might end up being longer than the movie. So, if it does end up being longer than the movie, I would like to say, before you lose interest and before you learn everything about the movie, you can still find this movie on YouTube. Type hard-boiled movie into YouTube. You can watch the whole thing. And that's the way I just did it just recently. I did it at work. I did it at home. It was incredible. So, hard-boiled movie into YouTube. You will find a grainy as fuck version of this movie with subtitles. I'm telling you, it's a nostalgic as fuck way to watch this movie, and I think you should do it. And I want, if what I've said in the first 50 minutes of this probably 2.5 hour long podcast has interested you in any way, watch this movie after you've listened to my podcast. So, we get all this shit. We get the development. We get the establishment of the triangle. And then we get... Now, this movie has, I would say, like 3 of the best action movies that have ever been featured in action ever. We've got Tea House as number 3. We've got Warehouse as number 2. And we've got Hospital as number 1. Now, I'm pouring myself another tequila slammer just so that you... Oof. All right. I'm going to pause this shit, and you won't even know that time has passed. And right after the triangle development that we get the number 2 action scene in in all of action movie history. And I know that I've said many times that things are the number one, or the best ever. I said that Devil May Cry was probably the best action game that's ever existed. Delicious. Now, this movie honestly does have some of the best action scenes that have ever been put onto film. So we get warehouse scene. Unbridled action. The most unfucking believable. Like, oh God, how long is this? I would say this scene is like 15 minutes long. 15 minutes of action. Now let me break it down. Johnny, Alan, and Johnny's crew are moving in to a warehouse owned by Uncle Hoy, the person that Alan currently works for and that Johnny is trying to steal him from. Johnny says, look, I want you. I want you on my team. But I need you to kill Uncle Hoy, to show me that that's what you want too. Tough stakes. The dude is an undercover cop. He's not even a fucking gangster. And he's got to kill a dude that he's built up trust with, to build up trust with another gangster. And we will get into that. It's a very complicated scene, and it's a very interesting scene, and I have sort of some thoughts on it, and we'll get into it. But basically, the scene boils down into a bunch of dudes cruising into this warehouse on motorcycles, just fucking slaughtering people. I mean, they're rolling around, they're crashing motorcycles, they're just shooting up with Uzis. A bunch of people who were like counting money or moving guns or putting guns into false compartments in cars. They're just shooting the fuck out of them, just killing the absolute hell out of them. There's just sparks and particle effects everywhere. I mean, it's fucking crazy. And then everyone is dead. And we also get, excuse me, we get Mad Dog Scarface. I might honestly call him Mad Dog Scarface through this entire fucking podcast. But I'm just trying to reinforce who the character is. So Mad Dog is rolling around on this motorcycle. He is Uziing people to death. He like crashes it. He gets off. He fucking shoots like a room full of people. I mean, he's probably killed like 20, 30, 40 fucking people by the end of this scene, and we're watching him just do it with no issue. I mean, high alertness, just unfucking stoppable how fucking crazy he's killing these people. And then the scene calms down. There was a person during the shootout who called Uncle Hoy and said, we're being fucking raided. You got to get over here. And after the shootout, I mean, just explosions, just people getting gunned down. I mean, particle effects everywhere. Paper explode. I mean, it's so hard to describe to you how fucking good it is. And I'm just trying to do enough so that I attract you into watching this movie. My whole goal of this podcast is so that you will go out on YouTube and watch this movie, because it might change your life. It might really make you see how good action can be and what you've been missing in your life. So, the warehouse shootout ends. So essentially the plot, I wrote this note down, so I want to break it down. because I'm a little confused. I was a little confused, and I want you to have, I don't know. I don't know why I was confused. It's pretty straightforward. Johnny Wong is doing a hostile takeover of Uncle Hoy's gun running. The undercover cop is essentially forced to kill his own boss. And we get a scene after the warehouse shootout. Once Uncle Hoy shows up, he goes, "What's going on? What's happening?" They're surrounded, like Uncle Hoy's men are surrounded by Johnny Wong's men. Uncle Hoy has like an entourage of like 8 guys that are guarding him, right? Uncle Hoy looks at fucking Alan and he goes, "You know what? I see what's going on. Okay, all right. But I want you to kill me." Uncle Hoy and Alan had this, it was a very deep relationship. I mean, it was like brother to brother or father and son. I mean, it was deep. And we get that in sort of the first character development bit right after the tea house. And then Alan has to kill Hoy to prove his loyalty to Johnny, right? And we get this scene where Uncle Hoy is saying, "You kill me, you kill me." He's like, "Look," and this is the final line. This is the line that draws it to Johnny killing Uncle Hoy. He says, Uncle Hoy says, "If you don't kill me, I will kill you." And Alan pulls out a gun, and he fucking shoots Uncle Hoy dead. And, you know, there was some agreements where hopefully the men who survive, like who were Uncle Hoy's, get to walk free, right? He was like, "I will sacrifice myself. Kill me now. My men walk free," basically. Alan shoots the fucking Uncle Hoy. Kills him. Uncle Hoy is just like dead in the eyes, shocked that this is happening. He falls dead. And then I think, personally, out of sort of a sense of shame or anger that he's had to go this far, or maybe a self-hatred, possibly. But I would say as a way to hide his feelings, a way to get rid of the negative thoughts inside of him, he grabs a gun from one of Johnny's henchmen and he shoots dead like 7 of Hoy's people. He just fucking shoots innocent, basically people who are going to walk away alive. He fucking shoots them all dead. And it's a dark scene for Alan's character. I mean, this is a man who is affected by the people he's had to kill. And we know that because he makes a paper crane for every person he kills. But I don't think that he ever thought, as a character, that he would have to kill the person that he's been working for so long. My P's are very hard, and I apologize for that. All I've got covering my mic is a sock. So, it's a very dark moment for Alan. And I think that the sort of shame, the anger of the situation, and the way that he feels drives him to grab an Uzi from someone right next to him that's part of Johnny's gang and shoot all of these people dead, unarmed. They put all their guns down. They were unarmed Uncle Hoy henchmen. And They died for essentially no reason, I think, other than what I feel is Alan trying to hide his shame. Like, he doesn't want to have people in the world that know who he was before. And he kills these fucking people. And it's brutal. I mean, it definitely affects him. And it's just such a good scene if you've been following along. I mean, just the tension between Hoy and Johnny and Alan. Another triangle. The strongest fucking shape in the world. The triangle. It's very interesting. And this is just interpretation. I mean, but I really felt, and this is like my third or fourth time. And this is the weird thing, right? I haven't seen this movie 100 times. But it has affected me in a major way. But we really see a huge development in Alan's character after this point. This is a big sort of reveal of who Alan is, and I think the reveal is that he is weak and he is so devastated that he has to do this that he decides the best answer to his pain, to his hurt, is that he should kill all the people who have known him before. And that's crazy. Like, that's, and here's the cool thing. That's only halfway through the warehouse scene. Enter Tequila, the one-man army, wielding the world's best shotgun that has ever been put on film. So Tequila rolls in. He comes in through the fucking ceiling on a rope. He throws some smoke grenades down. He cruises in. So Tequila has basically been watching this shit. He showed up and he knew that some bad shit was going to go on at this warehouse because he has an informant that told him that there was going to be a clan battle at this warehouse. So he cruises in as a one-man fucking army. Comes in from the ceiling on a fucking rope. After throwing down some smoke grenades, he cruises in, wielding the best movie shotgun that has ever existed. So this is the alcohol, okay? Do you understand? I'm about to take another one. Let's take another one. What is this? 5? All right. If I had video, this fucking tequila bottle is just about damn near halfway done. So I literally drop the cap every time. So clearly I'm intoxicated. Let's keep going though. That vest. That vest is gonna smell like alcohol. I have a day job, It's not just doing this beautiful podcast that you guys follow. It's a bunch of bullshit. So Tequila rolls in with this fucking shotgun. I don't think there's ever been a better movie shotgun, to be honest with you. Because fuck yeah. Every time he fires this son of a bitch, it explodes. Explodes is the right word. Anything in front of it. He shoots a car. It fucking... There is so... There's this thing you use in Hollywood to make like a realistic, like quote in quotes a realist. It's not CGI, but it's in quotes realistic effect of something sparking and sort of exploding, like a little explosion. It's sort of like a you get those little things, like those poppers you throw on the ground on 4th of July. It's sort of like that. So every time Tequila fires this shotgun, anything that he's aiming at explodes like 58 different times in that sort of way where he'll fire into a car and it will just like spark and shoot everywhere, where you really feel the impact of this gun. I would say even more than just firing a real gun. It's this sort of heightened reality that this shotgun lives in, where there's a scene in the warehouse bit after Tequila shows up where someone is driving a motorcycle at him and goes off a ramp because it's an action movie. He fucking shoots the motorcycle. It just fucking explodes. It explodes. And it just cruises down in flames. I mean, he's firing this shotgun at people, and it's exploding cars, and it's exploding inside cars, and like ruining the interior. I mean, it's incredible. The feeling, excuse me again, that the guns give you in this movie, you've never felt a more powerful gun than this movie. It is so hyper realized. It's better than shooting it in person. I've shot guns. I've shot shotguns. I've shot pistols. I've shot rifles. Shooting a shotgun does not feel as good as the shotgun is portrayed in this movie. It's incredible. So, one of the other not literal, Jesus, I'm slurring like crazy. I've had a lot to drink. So, one of the little plot points that happens during the warehouse scene is now, for a fact, we know that Alan is an undercover cop. What we also know is that Tequila does not know that Alan is an undercover cop. So Alan and Mad Dog are the two. It looks like I'm calling him Mad Dog. So Mad Dog Scarface, it looks like he's going to be Mad Dog for the rest of the podcast. We'll see, though. Remember that if I call him Scarface, which is what I thought his name, is what I put a name on him. If I say Scarface, I mean Mad Dog. And if I say Mad Dog, I mean Scarface. So I say Scarface because his face is scarred. Okay? I don't know if I've explained that yet, but now it's in the podcast. Listen up. So, one of the very interesting plot points we get during the warehouse shootout is that Tequila does not know that Alan is an undercover cop, but Alan knows that Tequila is a cop. And one of the things we also learn about Alan is that Alan does not want to kill police officers. He does have a morality about him. And we obviously learn that from his crane scene. But at the end of the warehouse scene, this beautiful action scene where Tequila is running around absolutely fucking dominating not the Yakuza, the Triad. After he is absolutely dominating the Triad, we get a scene where after he throws a smoke grenade, Alan and Tequila are face to face. Tequila has a 6-shot 357 Magnum pointed at fucking Alan's face. Alan has a 9mm pistol pointed to Tequila's neck. They hold there. Alan unclicks his pistol. Actually, fuck, hold on, shit! Right when they get in their standoff, right the fucking second they meet up in their standoff, Tequila has a fucking revolver to Alan's head, and he fucking pulls the trigger. It's empty. The gun is fucking empty. And if it wasn't empty, Tequila would have blown out Alan's fucking brains. He would have fucking killed him instantly. But he didn't keep the bullet count. And when they got in the standoff, he pulled the trigger and the gun clicks empty. And then right after that, Alan, we focus on him. He's got the gun to the man's neck. He unclicks the fucking trigger. And he walks away. And this is sort of a big moment in the development of the character of Tequila and Alan, where for the first time, Tequila understands that there's something else going on with Alan. And we get a scene right after where he goes to his boss, Tequila, and he says, well, what the fuck is up with this double agent? He's got to be a double agent, right? He's an undercover cop, and I almost just killed him. What the fuck is going on? That kind of thing. But this scene, it happens so fast, too, where they meet up. The bullets, the guns are at each other's fucking heads, and immediately Tequila pulls the trigger, and it clicks empty. And then it pauses. And then Alan unclicks his gun, holds it up, and disappears into the smoke. And this is the first moment we see where Tequila realizes there might be something more going on with Alan. And it's such a good scene. It's such a good scene. Because had his gun not been empty, he would have shot a cop in the face, in between the eyes, and killed him. And I think that the writer did a very good job at this movie. Because, fuck, he just didn't keep the count, right? There's no HUD telling you that there's going to be this many bullets in the gun. He didn't know. And he immediately pulls the trigger. But what we see is Alan is a better man. He unclicks the gun and he walks away. And then we start to learn from Tequila's perspective that Alan is a double agent, an undercover cop. And after the warehouse scene, we get another sort of character development scene that's covered by smooth jazz, where Tequila shows up at the boat, which Alan lives at. Alan lives on a boat. We get this moment where Tequila shows up. Excuse me. Tequila shows up and he goes, "What the fuck's going on? Huh? What's up with all these cranes? You know, what's going on? You know?" And he goes, "Look, you want to kill me? You can go ahead." And then Tequila finally learns that Alan is an undercover agent. And a moment happens where a bunch of dudes show up at the yacht. A bunch of Uncle Yoy's old men, old gang members. Excuse me, not a bunch of old men don't show up at this boat. Excuse me. His old Klansmen, his old gang members show up and they attack Alan's yacht. And we get a shootout scene between Alan and Tequila against Alan's old crew. And it's very good. And it ends with Johnny Wong showing up sort of in the parking lot of the pier. And there's this dude, Hoy, one of Hoy's men. He's been shot and he's dying on the dock. And he goes, "You betrayed us, you son of a bitch. You're a cop. You're a piece of shit." And he fucking shoots him dead, right? And Alan tells Tequila to jump in the way. He's like, "You got to get the fuck out of here, dude. My new boss is showing up, and you need to fucking vacate now." And he goes, "All right, how will I know that it's you? You know, how can we communicate?" And he goes, "I'll send you a crane." And he goes, "All right, man, you're a good dude. I believe in you." And he dives into the water and he fucks off. And Johnny Wong shows up and he goes, "Oh, fuck, these dudes just tried to kill you." And then the plot moves on. But we get this moment where the triangle is gone. It's now about Tequila understanding that Alan is a double agent and he's after Johnny Wong, and Tequila is also after Johnny Wong. Then after that, we're introduced to the final scene of the movie, the hospital. So during the shootout at the yacht, Alan takes a shotgun blast to the back, and he is taken to Johnny Wong's, in quotations, hospital, where he's sort of in control of this hospital. And we're shown sort of the location of the final battle. And we don't know it yet, but we're shown a little layout of what the fuck is going to happen. And then we move into, after Alan heals, they find out that there's a rat in the gang, the one that's been feeding information to Tequila, and they beat the fuck out of him. And Alan is there, and he manages to save the guy's life by slipping a lighter in the guy's pocket and shooting it and sending the guy over a bridge. But Johnny Wong now knows that there is a rat in the gang.
and we move towards the hospital. And the rat, his name is Foxy, or Fox, is sent to the hospital that Johnny Wong owns. And Johnny Wong basically puts a hit out on Johnny. And Alan volunteers to finish the job that he couldn't finish when Fox got shot in the chest because Alan slips a lighter into the dude's pocket and then shoots it, and then the bullet deflects. Excuse me, that was my phone. And then he lives, and then he goes to the hospital, and then Johnny Wong wants to kill the guy in his own hospital. And then Alan volunteers to kill the guy. Johnny Wong doesn't trust him, sends extra men with him. The extra man is Mad Dog Scarface. We get a scene of Alan walking into the hospital, looking like he's about to fuck this dude up. But he sends a signal to Tequila, a crane, letting him know that it's me coming. Tequila moves the man to another room. They show up. Alan shows up. He shoots the room up. As a ruse, two of the other men who are Johnny's men show up. Fucking Johnny, excuse me. That's a lot to drink. Alan and Tequila shoot at the men that are with Alan. Foxy is saved. As far as we know, a scene breaks out of character development. During the scene of character development, Mad Dog Scarface finds out where Foxy is, cuts his throat, and buries his ass in a laundry chute of the hospital. The men, Alan and Tequila, find out this is going on. And then the final scene begins. Tequila lets his girlfriend know that there's a big, bad thing going on at this hospital. There is a gun-running operation going on at this hospital. You need to get here. You need to bring as many men as you can. We need to get the patients out. We need to get the doctors out. We need to get the innocents out. But the final gun show is going to happen at this hospital. And we get this, it's like a 15-minute setup. Sort of what the fuck is going on in the plot. And there's this slow build-up of cops showing up, cops getting set up, cops trying to get the civilians out, doctors refusing. This sort of tension builds where we know that Johnny Wong is established in this hospital. And things are going to go bad unless civilians get the fuck out of here. Now, the romantic interests. She pulls the fire alarm. She tries to get the people to get out. People start escaping into the street. And we are now into the 30-minute long action masterclass, action masterpiece, beautiful moment that sets this movie apart than any other. We've got the situation. There are gang members in this hospital. There are civilians in this hospital. There is a loose cannon cop in this hospital. Now, we get a little scene where they find out where the guns are coming from. It's a morgue. We get a little morgue fight scene. They find out where the guns are coming from. It's sort of like this underground bunker within the hospital. They get trapped. They can't get into the actual bunker. And we get a scene where Chow Yun-fat, Tequila, tries to make his way in, and we get this sharpshooter scene where Chow Yun-fat, Tequila. I keep saying Chow Yun-fat because I just really respect the actor. Excuse me. Tequila. He sets up this thing, like a bullet dug within a pipe so that he can blow it up, filled with gunpowder. It's a scene. I don't want to get into it. But what we get out of it is this sort of sharpshooter scene where we understand that Tequila is an incredible shot, and he can do it near instantly. And it like zooms in on the bullet, it zooms in on the gun, and he shoots it and it blows up. The elevator opens. They manage to get out from their trapped location. And then begins the 30-minute long extended action scene. Patients are being evacuated. Johnny has no qualms about killing the innocent, and all hell breaks loose. Hundreds of patients are running around and getting shot. People are shooting out of windows at evacuees in the streets. The police are trying their best to save as many people as possible. Johnny then takes the patients that are still in the hospital hostage, including a room full of babies. We get some scenes of Alan and Tequila doing some hallway shootouts and a big patient rescue. So, there's a room full of patients and doctors. There's a few cops thrown in the mix. But there's a ton of bad guys in the middle, and they're using the patients and doctors as hostages. We get a scene where Alan, disguised as one of the enemies, has a shotgun to Tequila's back. They walk into the room. They all wink at the police officers that are in the crowd, knowing that they have the upper hand. They make their move. They slide in. They shoot in. The cops that are in the middle of the crowd of civilians get them all down. Tequila and Alan gun down all of the bad guys, saving, I would say, 95% of the civilians. And then we get the scene, the moment that truly shows how incredible this movie is. We get a 2-hallway, multi-floor action scene that is taken, that is done in a single take. Now, if you know anything about the direction of movies, single take cuts are very difficult. It is sort of a testament to how well you can direct and create a movie. If you can do a long cut with nothing else but one camera following the action, and you can do it well, it basically shows how big your dick is. And John Woo managed to do a multi-floor shootout with character development in between that was uncut. I think it's 5 minutes long of these two guys working in perfect unison. Tequila and Alan going down a hallway, shooting people, shit's exploding, glass is falling, people are dying all over the place. They're shooting villains. They're moving forward. It's incredible. It is one of the greatest pieces of action ever put to film. And I will back that up I mean, you can at me all you want, but I want you to watch this scene. And I want you to understand that this is one of the best action moments ever put to film. It is uncut. It is beautifully directed. Typically, John Woo uses multiple cuts in his gunfights to highlight what is going on and to show people the heightened reality of what he's built. But in this scene, what he does is he showcases his directional talent by creating a scene that is filmed with one take that not only has breakneck action, but has very deep character development. After this scene, we get the split up. Alan and Tequila split up. Alan fights Mad Dog, the main villain of the shootouts of the movie. Tequila goes to rescue this room of babies that I mentioned earlier. Then we get another beautiful shootout where Tequila, while holding a baby, takes out, I think, 6 or 7 guys. And the only thing that happens to him is he takes one single bullet. He sings a lullaby. It's this beautiful, quiet moment where it shows the skill, the athleticism of Tequila. And while protecting a baby, he manages to take out like 6 or 7 guys. While this is happening, Johnny is fighting Mad Dog Scarface. And we see Johnny's thugs, planting C4 all over the hospital. And the Mad Dog and Alan fight. So the C4 comes in like literally 10 minutes later. But the Alan and Mad Dog fight reaches a moment where there is a pile of civilians, wounded, sick, hospital goers in between them. After a brutal gunfight, they're looking at each other. The movie pauses and it pans down. And it shows a pile of sick and dying people in front of them. And they each put their gun down. They wait. They let the civilians evacuate. And it's this moment that really shows that Mad Dog, he's not this brutal, heartless killer. He has morals. But he's just really good at his job. The guns go down. The people evacuate. They get ready to fuck each other up again. Johnny Wong shows up. And what does he do as the people are evacuating? He shoots them all dead. He kills every single sick and in need of doctor person that Mad Dog and Alan just saved. He kills them all. Mad Dog looks and goes, "What the fuck was that?" And he fires a bullet into his boss. Johnny retaliates by shooting him dead with a street sweeper shotgun. Kills him. One shot. Point blank with a shotgun. Shoots him in the chest. Knocks him down. But I think this moment was really beautiful because we get to see that Mad Dog was just very good at his job. He wasn't a monster. But Johnny is an absolute fucking monster. Not only does he kill his most loyal person, he kills 15 civilians, just shoots them all to death. And we get a characterization of the villain of Mad Dog that we didn't see up to this point, where he does have morals. He doesn't, Johnny's only problem is with the cops. Why does he have to take all these civilians hostage? Why does he have to kill all these normal, regular people? Johnny doesn't give a fuck. He's down to murder and kill as many people as it takes for him to make it out of this. And then Johnny blows the entire hospital with C4. So there's a little fun fact. There's a scene where after Johnny presses the trigger on the C4, Chow Yun-fat is running through explosions. And as far as I understand, there's a point where John Woo goes, no, we need more. And he clicks all the fucking explosions like at once. And John Woo, Chow Yun-fat takes the explosions like super fucking close to his body, like way, way too close. And from what I understand, like John Woo really endangered Chow Yun-fat's life in this scene, and you can see it in the movie. Like Chow Yun-fat is taking explosions like to the face, and that is a scene where post-production we find out that it wasn't supposed to be that close, and those explosions are real. They're practical effects. They're actual explosions. And John Woo went a little overboard and maybe almost killed Chow Yun-fat. Now, Chow Yun-fat is in this baby shooting out scene. He escapes with this baby, makes it to the courtyard. It's this huge moment, him managing to do a shootout, doing his normal tequila action while also holding a baby and keeping it safe. He escapes. The hospital is exploding. Johnny walks out with Alan as a hostage, saying, if you kill me, you won't be able to kill me. I've got a cop as a hostage. Chow Yun-fat is forced to embarrass himself, slap his face, call himself a piece of shit, impotent in front of everyone he knows and Johnny Wong. But Alan sacrifices himself. He grabs the gun Johnny Wong has and he shoots himself in the chest with it. And in that moment, Chow Yun-fat Tequila is able to take the shot and shoot Johnny Wong right in the fucking face and kill him. And then the movie ends. A jazz soundtrack plays and the credits roll. I'm hoping that I've been able to describe to you enough to get you hyped. Yeah, I'm a little drunk. I'm having a good time. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, and if you think I'm not gonna fucking have a good time recording it, fuck you. But this movie is a gorgeous display of action. A masterclass, a masterpiece, a piece of media that has resounded in everything else that has come after it. I highly recommend this movie. Anyone who is interested in action movies should watch this movie. And again, the entire movie's on YouTube. Just look up Hard Boiled Movie on YouTube, and you can watch that shit for free And I recommend you do it, to be honest, because it's the first way that I watched it. I hope that you fall in love with this movie, because this movie changed my life. I have never seen an action movie as good as this. And I hope that you, the viewer, the listener, watch this movie too if you've never seen it before. And with that, thank you for starting your weekend out right with Level Die. And to get a little deep, the architect of your destiny is yourself. Simply be despair. Have a good weekend. I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening.